Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. I hope you had a great weekend. Okay, something happened up a week, and we didn't get to talk about it, and that was the United States 2023 country reports on human rights practices. It's a document. It's a report that's been published by the Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights and Labor, U.S. Department of State. Now, as you will recall, in that document, they had said that, well, independent observers had said that by and large, the elections, the 2023 elections, reflected the will of the people, which is not the same as to say that there were not instances, as they put it, many independent observers who assessed the report of the presidential, legislative, and state-level elections during the year affirmed that it reflected the will of voters, despite reports of voter suppression, vote buying, campaigning at polling stations, lack of ballot secrecy, and then violence and intimidation. Horrible as those indices are, it still was their considered opinion that when you look at everything, you look at the totality, that is why I said by and large, the elections still reflected the will of the people. Of course, everybody will have their opinion about that. There are those who had, in fact, you recall that APC and the Labour Party especially, had, cried, how did you arrive at that conclusion? But as I said, it was a matter of reflecting the overall, the larger impression. It has been said that you can't, because of one or two infringements, invalidate an entire election. Okay, to talk about this and also get your input from home, to talk about this morning, we have Comrade Ayodele Adewale, APC State Organizing Secretary for Lagos State. Comrade, as always, you're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Indeed. And we shall be joined later on by another commentator on political affairs. So that's the report that, you also are aware of. The election was not 100% as elections should be, but independent observers that they surveyed had given this report that we have to nod towards those unfortunate practices, but the implication of the report is that you cannot invalidate the elections. It generally reflected the will of the people. How do you see that?
Well, that report gladdens my heart, based on the fact that people did come out, and the last time you saw such a number of people that came out was during the June 12, 1993 general elections and all of that. A situation where there were a lot of surprises, places where some people had their strongholds and they lost those strongholds and they gained in other areas that one would have thought they would never had an inroad. Basically, people did come out to vote and they expressed their will to vote for a candidate of their choice. And so many upset were also seen. New people coming into the political field were able to make their statement and make their mark. And today, a lot of them are in the National Assembly, and they are also in various states. And we also thank God that the president didn't win the election. He won the election, Ashwaji Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And his winning was also tested, at the judiciary.
Indeed.
And he scaled through all the stratum.
Yes. The report, did mention, Labour Party, especially as you know, in Lagos, that's your area, you're the organizing secretary for Lagos State. The AP Party did win the presidential election in Lagos State, and that gave many people, a lot of hope. And so when the governorship, the following election came about, and it didn't follow suit, there are those who had said that all sorts of malpractices were put into place. And indeed, independent observers said that, well, according to this U.S. State Department report, attested to the fact that from what they could see on social media, it would appear that there were some actions that were taken that ordinarily you wouldn't say were fair. That's them. But APC said that whereas the report is welcoming, I mean, it's sort of it's welcomed, but it said it needs to be known though that they don't need any external. The country doesn't need any external validation for its internal processes, and so, comforting as the report, generally speaking, was, they had left that behind. That's, in the past, they're now looking forward, and that the deepening of democracy was what was uppermost on their minds. But it does bear talking about, because the opposition says that it does have a point here. Atiku Abubakar, he said he was at a loss, as Obi had said that he was at a loss to understand how they had, arrived at this report. But that report was not, it wasn't for Nigeria, it was a country's report. So there were a number of countries that the US makes it its business to survey in this manner. And so it needs to be said that when we're talking about this, Nigeria was just among the countries that were surveyed. And so this is what we're talking about here. But when you look at the APC response, that it's heartwarming, but hardly do we need really any external validation. Take a look at that statement.
That statement was born out of the fact that Nigeria is a sovereign nation. And as a sovereign nation, you do not need anybody to affirm your sovereignty or the wills and caprices of the people that are Nigerians to determine their future and determine their faith. When you allow external observers to come, it's for diverse purposes. One, to see how the process is very transparent and how it goes, and also for them to come and learn how to improve on their own system. Nigeria also do send people to other countries to monitor their elections, and many things they see there that they can borrow from, they bring it back to the Nigerian system, open more of discussion, open more forum for them to try to rework our system for it to, up its game. So it is not out of place for countries to send people down here, but it will be out of place if whatever statement they are making do go against the sovereign rights of people of that nation.
Well, what we are saying, what the report is saying, as published, 24th, 25th of April, is that it reflected the will of the Nigerian voters, generally speaking. I think that's very, very important. Clearly, there were infringements here and there. Nobody is saying that didn't happen, regrettably. Nobody's saying that didn't happen. But that when you look at it as a whole, they just had to come up with that decision, as our own internal processes also have. Because the election, especially in the case of the presidential, was contested all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the verdict was returned that everything was in order from a point of view of the law. Were there infractions, isolated individual infractions from place to place? Probably, especially when you look at social media, as was said, but nothing enough to invalidate the elections the way the opposition sought to do. But then, when you test this before the law, it didn't stand up.
Social media is very good. It helps to showcase a lot of things that mainstream media might not be able to catch. But yet again, it must be based on facts. Facts that is opined by law and the rules that surrounds the conduct and the process of the electoral system. And if the facts are put forward and those facts can be proven right, then so be it. The Nigerian people have sat down at various forums, and they've come up with so many laws to protect our electoral processes. And the electoral processes and the judicial system was put to test. And at the end of it all, the judiciary made their position known based on the facts that was put before them. And if anything goes against that fact, then it's a figment of people's imagination.
Indeed. Bobby in Taraba has called in. Good morning, Bobby.
Good morning, Okwiyori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling.
Good morning. Okwiyori, can we just bury this thing of the previous election that just happened? Whether anybody likes it or not, at the moment, President Bola Tinubu should be allowed to work. Let's bury everything behind and allow this man to work. Giving us credit on our elections from the U.S. or any other country cannot help matters. At the moment, sir, we know exactly what is happening in this country. People are finding it difficult to put food on the table, to feed themselves. Let's allow Tinubu to work. All this credit cannot even come into perspective of how we are going to feed ourselves. For me, the only credible election that happened in this country was the one in 1993 that brought in late MKO Abiola, irrespective of tribe, religion, or region. May God bless this country, and let's support the president to succeed. God bless you, and God bless everybody around.
Thank you, Bobby, for calling in. Bobby in Taraba there. That seems to be the general opinion. In fact, as Bobby was saying, can we just get on with the business of organizing ourselves? But the U.S., dare I say it, sees itself as something of a policeman to the entire world. And so whether you invite them or not, they will contribute their 2 cents, their opinion. And in this case, the U.S. has deemed it fit that they have this very elaborate, they just are going to be involved in world affairs. Where is it now? It's actually, the official name is, the official title is the United States 2023 Country Reports on Human Rights Practices. They actually have their own issues, but let's for the moment leave that. And it is a document that was to be published by the Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor, U.S. Department of State. And so, the Department of State concerns itself with its binoculars on the entire world. But I think as Bobby said, the response, especially of APC, that fine, thank you, but we've left that behind. We're now looking towards 2027, and we don't really need validation, which is not the same as to say that we don't care. No, it's not the same as to say we don't care about anything. But that, thank you very kindly, but if you brought this up at this time, is like the contribution from Bobby there. Please let this country breathe. Please let Nigeria breathe, and we have business to get along with. But in your state, Lagos State, where you are organizing, state organizing secretary, especially Labour Party brought up a lot of issues against the backdrop of the expectations they had following the presidential election. And you saw all the complaints, social media was also there. What would you say about Lagos State? Because the report itself did single out Lagos State.
Well, I would say that report is a cycle report. And that cycle report was put out at a very belated time. But I will only say that we should allow sleeping dog to lie. Things have come and gone. Mm-hmm. People are looking forward to the next election. Lessons have been learned. And the electoral umpires to have learned one or two things. All parties have learned a lot of things. And it is now time for governance. We need to do more work as Nigerians, as Lagosians, to make the society better off than where it is right now. And the APC government is doing a lot of things to bring, improvement into the society. The governor of Lagos,
across
board. With respect to Lagos, just last week, you saw all the various systems and things that will cushion, the hardship and all of that, as brought forward by the governor of Lagos State. He has reduced by half the cost of transportation by rail, by road, by water, and all of that. He has also brought support for food in terms of reducing prices. And
So there are all sorts of projects on the
There are
ground.
so many things going on right now.
Let me bring in Elder David, who has called in. Good morning, sir. Elder David?
Good morning, sir. I'm still waiting, sir.
Yes, please go on now. You are live now.
Okay. Good morning, sir. Yori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you, Elder David.
David from Alimasho, sir.
Indeed. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. The U.S. report is from U.S. government. It's from U.S. government. And what U.S. said is very correct. The freest election since 1999 is Tinubu election. And these are facts I know to everybody. Because when they say Muslim, yes, Nigerians do not look at that. They are looking at the ability of what Tinubu can do for this country. And we are seeing it today. Only 10 months in government, things are changing, except those who are deceiving themselves. I've said it on this platform in 2021. The man will win and he will perform wonder. And let Nigeria be patient. The U.S., the British have equally confirmed it. In the 6 zones, he got 5 zones, apart from Southeast, where they just write results and present it. I think we'll get only 2. I think we'll get only 1.5. So what are we talking? The APC has come to perfect democracy in this country. And the election, we are not ready. The election started with Buhari. And may God bless him too. He's a hero of democracy. While Tinubu is the champion and leader of democracy, God will bless you all your daily. Adewale, what you are saying is correct. And everybody knows this. And let us accept patience for this government. We judge Obasanjo by 8 years. We judge the Jonathan by 8 years. This man with only 10 months now, we are seeing what he's doing. I lay a foundation that will benefit everyone of us. Nobody is suffering. Everybody is suffering. And if we are suffering, it's an inherited problem, which I have laid a foundation that is going to correct. Before the end of this year, you will see what is going to happen. God will bless every Nigerian that believes in truth. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
David. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Elder David, for calling in. You know, this U.S. report that we're talking about now, this U.S. report published by the Department of State, it did say that it did attribute some of its conclusions to independent observers on ground, but then also added social media. Now, social media it's a dicey thing if you're going to depend on social media. First of all, what was the coverage of social media? You know, all sorts of things go on in terms of social media. It depends on what was covered. It depends on how heavily what was covered was covered. There are so many things that perhaps, you know, the domestic reporter operating on social media, his rules are not the same as the mainstream press. And so you'll find that there could be a very narrow concentration of coverage that would then be spread widely all over the place, and it would seem as if that was the preponderance of activity going on. This is not necessarily wanting to defend one position or the other, but just to point out that the social media is hardly an independent platform like that. But the U.S. Department of State says that it did say that according to social media videos. It did say that.
Well, social media, just like every other thing, have its positive and negative
Of course.
depending on how
it does have its uses.
And some people could decide to orchestrate some kind of narrative in order to suit their self-purpose.
It's entirely possible.
So it depends on who is watching, and it also depends on how it is presented before a court of law in order to prove their case and all that.
Yes.
And that is why it is advised that when you look at social media, you see the content, you must also be very, very wise and knowledgeable in order to decipher whatever content that is being put forward. And don't be quick to assert on what you have seen, but be careful and look in between the lines to arrive at your conclusions.
some sort of hard-hitting paragraphs that were inserted in the report. Quote now, during the March 18 state election in Lagos, All Progressive Party APC supporters reportedly intimidated and suppressed voters in Igbo-dominated areas, which Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi won in the February 25th national election, which was not contested. No, there was no contest. Labour Party, Peter Obi, in the presidential elections, he won. Nobody's contesting that, but they're using that as a sort of a descriptor for people to understand. I'm hearing that we have another report. Let me, George, Mr. George calling in from Lagos. Good morning to you, Mr. George.
Good morning, Uncle Yori, and good morning to the comrades.
Yes,
Good
thank
morning,
you.
Mr. George.
Uncle Yori, it is about time we do away with this colonial mentality about our elections. Why does it have to be America to tell us that our election was free or fair? And look at them, they seem to be approbating and reprobating. After saying that the election reflects the will of the Nigerian people, they went ahead to be saying this and that. Is there any election that has no hiccup? Okay.
Yes.
Is there any election that has not, that doesn't have any hiccup in anywhere in the world?
None.
Look at America itself. The one that Donald Trump tried to truncate. He is still claiming that he won that election, and this is somebody who has more than 90 criminal cases in court. He has been convicted in many, and they are still trying to bring him to government. Is that they should talk about their own situation instead of trying to run down another country? If I were you, I would not even give that report any publicity because they don't deserve it. We are a nation that is capable of solving our problems. We have elected a president that can fix our country, and he's fixing it. Some of them who are benefiting from the rot in one way or the other are not happy that things are looking up in Nigeria. We know all that. They should leave us alone, Joe.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. George, for calling. And the sentiment, Mr. George's sentiment, is quite frankly the way the APC as a party reacted to that. They might not have used these words, apart from those telling words that, nice, thanks, but we don't really need such validation. It's external, we don't need it. And very, very importantly, we've moved on. You people are publishing that now. Since somebody has said 10 months of this administration, but we're very friendly with America. America are friends. But it doesn't subtract from the fact that America still sees itself as the policeman of the world, and it sees itself as the commentator and analyst of the world, and will comment and analyze and publish as it sees fit. It's just as Mr. George is saying that, okay, it's a free country, democracy, we take a lot of it from there. Free speech, America has had its free speech, but, thank you, let's move on. It seems to be the attitude of this government. We are just covering this because when Mr. George said, so why are you even dignifying all of this? Well, it's in the realm of news. America, you cannot say who has been speaking. So if they said this, no problem, let's talk about it, let's chat about it. But as I was saying, your state was brought into, Lagos State is what I mean, was brought very, very much into it. I mean, they could have mentioned other states, they didn't. They concentrated on Lagos State. I guess that's the way life is. Lagos is the big fish. So they concentrated on that and sought to imply, if not indicate that, as I was reading, suppressed voters in, so as they put it, Igbo-dominated areas, which the Labour Party presidential candidate had done very, very well in. They therefore were extrapolating that any other election was going to follow that pattern. But without, unearthing dry bones, when things happen, people react. And so, no doubt, APC in Lagos had seen that, oh, I see, is this it? Well, we better be very up and doing. And they probably got the results of all of that. Another call has come in. I'm so sorry that I don't get these. So, yes, another call has come on. It hasn't been put on here, so. Okay. I'm just hearing that our other guest, Kabir Akingbulu, lawyer and political affairs analyst, who is minus a suit this morning. It's the first time I've seen him on air without a suit. Good morning to you, Kabir.
Yeah, you are correct. The notice came very late, so.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure for having me on the program.
Okay, then. So you've been listening to us for a few moments, I hope. Yes.
Very well.
And, well, we're looking at this report of, I jocularly call them the policeman of the world, the analyst of the world, the United States of America, who have released this report now. And, that was released last week, but we're just looking at it for the sake of completeness. Give me your impressions about it, because they say at one time that, the election, by all accounts, especially those on ground here, did, reflect the will of the people. But then they go ahead and, perhaps rightly, enumerate a number of infringements, one of which was what I've just read, because they did zero in on Lagos. So give me your impressions.
Yeah. When you look at it very well, first of all, I want to observe that the report is coming too late. And secondly, one will be asking in that line that what are they trying to achieve? And again, what can it achieve in practical reality?
Thank you.
And when you look at it, and again, to whittle down the effect of such report, of the U.S. report, is the fact that the report itself is almost self-defeating, in the sense that the report is saying the zeroing, their data was based on Lagos alone. Nigeria has 36 states. We have the FCT, and though Lagos is populated by all the tribes in Nigeria, more or less, conveniently one can argue like that. However, if you take these indices to analyze it, you will find out that it is difficult to be able to rely on such report as very, very tenable. But for whatever it is, just like you have said, since it is America that is speaking, most people will tend to believe it. Like they used to say that when America sneezes, the whole world catches the cold. It is something, in one way, to the politician. His mind, it's mind pleasing. But to ordinary men on the street, it may not be so, because. But I am not so happy that the report is coming so late. Remember, there was another report called the European Union report, something to say, which was not with the court jettisoning. And again, when they announced, the report is also saying that based on, some people are thinking, based on social media report, this makes it to be seriously, questionable and not reliable, let me say, because today, even, not only in Nigeria, every part of the world, it is easier for a party or for a personality that has the deep pocket to be able to dictate what happens on the social media, in the sense that people can be sponsored to a certain view, whether positively or negatively, depending on where the pendulum of your interest swings. You understand? So because of this, if you are basing a report on a social media report, to me, it does not signify or indicate the general interest or general feelings of the people. Okay. If you look at it again from that angle and deeper, you find out majority of Nigerians don't go to social media, and majority of the voters, my brother, they are in the local environment. They are not lettered. Many of them are not on social media. Yeah. Yeah. So it means you have not get their feelings.
All right, then.
You want to say something?
Okay. At this stage, Comrade Ayodele and Kabir, I'll just take a break now. We'll be right back. Do please stay with us. We'll continue with the conversation as well as taking your calls.